$22 million is super reasonable for that.
Very reasonable. And so that's why, like, I think with Denver, they're the team right now where you look at and say that's cheap ownership.
The next one on the list, and this is a big one for the Western Conference, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. $66 million went to Orlando. I'm a big fan of this for Orlando, and I like his fit there. This makes absolutely no sense to me for Denver, honestly. No sense whatsoever. I don't know. Your boy Calvin Booth, he's thrown me for a loop on this one, Kevin. Why? I was looking at this this chart the other day, taking on the toughest assignments. It's a thing that came out from Sports Radar, and it was percentage of players on ball defensive time spent matched up with the opponent's scoring ball handler. So the number one on that list was Derrick Jones Jr. It would not surprise you, right? He was the only perimeter defender on that Dallas team. Number two, Lou Dort.
No surprise.
Right? No surprise. Number three, OG Anunoby.
No surprise. But very, very, and you'd expect all those names.
Number four, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it almost just as much as the scoring, the three-point shooting with KCP, the defense will be a loss. Now, KCP, I had him second team all defense on my ballot. He ended up not making it, but he was on my ballot. I voted for him. He did get destroyed by Anthony Edwards in the Nuggets-Wolves series. So and last year against the Suns, he did not do great against Devin Booker. And this isn't to dismiss his defensive ability, but it is merely to say, I'm sure in the eyes of the Nuggets, they feel like Christian Braun can step into his role and do at least similar to what he's done. Then what do you do behind Brown, though? Like, that's the questions here. Like, if you lose KCP, yes, you have Christian Braun, but then you're relying on Julian Strawther to step up, who was not great last year in the NBA. He did not shoot the ball well at all. He shot the hell out of the ball as a junior at Gonzaga, but he was pretty inconsistent prior to that. Maybe that he's just one of those streaky shooters. Maybe you can't rely on him. You got Jalen Pickett, who we both loved in the draft last year.
It's Watson, right? It's Watson.
But he barely played. But then, Peyton Watson's already part of the rotation. And Peyton Watson was more of the Bruce Brown replacement. So Watson was kind of like in the Brown lane. And you got Christian Braun in the KCP lane. Well, who's filling the gaps behind those guys? That's the concern for Denver right now, where they haven't signed anybody yet. So you lose KCP's defense. You lose one of your best shooters. He's a 40% guy from three. In his 2 years with Denver, he can shoot above the break. He can shoot from the corners. He can shoot those one or two side dribbles when a closeout comes. Christian Braun in the playoffs has hit like less than a quarter of his shots in the postseason from three. Brown had success last season during the regular season from three, but he still stunk again in the postseason as a shooter. So you're a team that was 30th in the NBA in three-point attempts, 25th in the league in three-point makes. You're already feeling like you need shooting. And now all the reports are that you're going for Russell Westbrook. I mean, I think there's something strange going on here.
I just don't get winning a title and then getting worse and then getting worse again. You know what I mean? Like they lost Brown and Green last offseason. They lost Paul Caldwell-Pope this. Like, what are we doing?
Well,
you got the best player in the world.
Well, and those were two of Booth's best acquisitions. He takes over for Tim Connelly. He gets Brown. He gets KCP. He drafts Christian Braun. And then you lose Brown. Then you lose Green. Then you lose KCP. And your bet is on your rookies. Your bet is on your draft picks.
It's a mistake.
And you're not going to get every draft pick right, no matter how great of a general manager you are. And also, not to mention, as I wrote about after Denver got eliminated, your head coach doesn't see things the same way. Malone didn't invest in those rookies during this regular season. He played two-way guys more than the rookies that you selected in the draft, more than Hunter Tyson, more than Jalen Pickett. He pulled the plug on Strawther, who struggled and actually received opportunities. So I think, all the minutes and playing time that maybe could have went to those guys this season, they got none of it. And that hurts them entering year two. So I think Denver is a team where there's clearly a lack of organizational alignment, and maybe things got better after the season. Maybe this coming year, Malone will play those younger guys, and maybe Hunter Tyson ends up really good. Maybe Pickett ends up really good, but I mean, the fact is that it's hard to replace KCP, especially 1 year after losing Bruce Brown. We saw how tough it was to replace Bruce Brown, and it's undeniable that the Nuggets are a worse team today than they would have been with KCP, and this hurts their finals chances in pretty profound ways, considering how vital he's been. You mentioned all the tough the opponents he defends, the shooting he provides. Denver's in a tough spot all of a sudden, and this is a massive bet on their young guys taking a leap. Like Christian Brown's going to be way better. Peyton Watson's going to be better as a shooter. And if you do end up signing Russell Westbrook, and it seems like they're gonna, Harrison Wind, a very reliable reporter over at DNVR, he was the first to report that Jokic wants Russell Westbrook on the team, that he's pushing for it. If you sign Russ, and I know you and I see differently on Russ, but I'm sure you and I can at least agree on the strange fit in Denver. If you're adding Russ, a guy who shoots 25% from three, you can't play him with Aaron Gordon. They already sag off of Aaron Gordon and force him to shoot. You can't play those guys together. I just think it's going to be a complete disaster fit. And then also it takes minutes away from some of those young guys that you need to work out.
Yeah, say whatever you want, but Reggie Jackson played for him. Right? They moved off of him too. Like, I don't get it, man. This should be a team that's like going for titles right now. It's like there's a window where this guy is the best player in the world, and you got to surround him with a team and KCP's number is not that high.
$22 million annually.
Reasonable.
Yes. Well, yes.
You know what I mean? I get it. If somebody like massively overpaid, like, everybody looked at the Bruce Brown thing and went, yo, man, go get your bag.
Yes.
Right?
But KCP, this is reasonable. Very reasonable.
Nobody's going to be like, wow. But like, if you've got a small four or, a shooting guard / a wing that defends the best player on the other team every night and hits 40% of his threes, $22 million is super reasonable for that.
Very reasonable. And so that's why, like, I think with Denver, they're the team right now where you look at and say that's cheap ownership. Like, you got Boston right now who just paid their fifth player over $30 million annually. They're fifth. And then Nuggets can't dip into the second apron for the first year with giving KCP $20 million. I mean, like that's a failure to support your megastar in Jokic, your future Hall of Famer, your all-time great, your 3-time MVP. That's on ownership, and it is on front office as well, in the sense that they didn't have to sign Zeke Naji. If they didn't give Zeke Naji the money last year, then they wouldn't be in this position where they'd have to move off of him, where they couldn't be in a spot where they go over the second apron. So I think for Denver here, I look forward to seeing if they got any other moves coming. I think Russ would be a major mistake. It would be one of the worst mistakes if Jokic's career to end up pushing for him. He would learn the same thing that LeBron James learned. I wish they had signed like DeLon Wright, who went to the Bucks for the minimum. To me, that would have made a hell of a lot more sense. There's other guys in free agency I'd rather go for. I'd rather go for like Tyus Jones. Maybe you could work some trade for him with that Zeke Naji salary number.
Or grab Malcolm Brogdon from Washington, or
there's just other paths I'd rather go here. And then the other side of it, though, too, Chris, is I forget who reported it. Forgive me, but somebody said, I think it was Sam Amick with The Athletic, and that crew said that the Nuggets made an offer for Paul George, including Michael Porter Jr., of which the Clippers declined, like they did all of these other sign and trade or opt-in and trade scenarios. So that is at least an indicator that the Nuggets are open to moving Michael Porter Jr. And that's the big salary number. You look at their team, a $35 million guy. Conley gave that deal, not Booth. That was before Booth took over. But that MPJ number is massive for a guy who doesn't do a lot off the dribble. He is largely just a shooter, and he's an okay defender. That's the salary that you look at in the Nuggets, and I'm like, whew, like, how do you split this into multiple role players or a better, higher paid player than MPJ? That's the piece that they need to flip somewhere along these lines in order to, I think, optimize the roster around Jokic.